Welcome to Blenheim EquiSports TV. I'm David Portner, and it's April 3rd, 2021, and I'm broadcasting live from the virtual studio at the beautiful Rancho Mission Viejo Riding Park in San Juan, Capistrano. Today's featured class is the $100,000 Blenheim West Coast Jumping Tour Gold Tour Meter 50 Grand Prix, sponsored by the Inn at the Mission in San Juan, Capistrano. And a quick side note, if you haven't been to the Inn at the Mission, you really need to check it out. If you're planning to stay anywhere in Southern California, this needs to be on your bucket list. The facilities are amazing and the service is impeccable. And now, back to business. I'm delighted today to be joined by color commentators Susan Artez and Raymond Texel. Susie and Ray are going to be giving us play-by-play as we watch the live stream today during the Grand Prix. Now, in a minute, I'm going to mask up and head out and interview course designer Leopoldo Palacios. And now, once again, I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing Leopoldo Palacios. Leopoldo is a famous FEI and Olympic course designer who has laid out today's track. Leopoldo, why don't we bring you in and we'll ask you a few questions about today's event. Welcome back, Leopoldo.
Thank you, David. I am very happy to be here in California and have a good time here in this difficult moment of the world.
So now we're about to get started with the $100,000 Blenheim West Coast Jumping Tour Gold Tour Grand Prix. It's a meter 50. What have you got in store for the riders this afternoon?
This is a very beautiful ring and different than all the others. And I believe the variety is the more important in the sport. Today the sport is too standard. And here we break all the standards and going with different. I have different fences. I have a fixed water jump that is different. I have a fixed Liverpool, what make different under the shadow of the trees. Is another experience. And I think this is very important, but this gives it to the sport another dimension. But today we have a sport too plain, in my opinion. And this gives it here another dimension.
So what do you think is going to offer the riders the biggest challenge today in the first round?
I start with a course that is 1-2 is not very difficult, but it's a little bit long and to put the horses on shape. And after the one line that is difficult but not overdo it, 2, 3, 4. And after have the water early is fence number 5. Normally, the water at the end is more easy. The water at the beginning of the course is more difficult. After the water, I will have a skinny fence that is always is a problem, and more after the water that the horses are flat. And coming, and I have a single combination with nothing in front, nothing in the back, and good. And after I have the Liverpool. The Liverpool is really different. And the horses are not habituated to jump these kind of fences. And today, years ago in every show have this. But now, I don't know why, but what I say is to play in the sport. And after, I will have a line of 3 straight, vertical oxer a little forward. And the last line is a triple bar, double vertical a little bit forward to arrive into the double vertical a little bit forward after steady, and after going again to the biggest fence of the course, what will be the last fence. I think it's nothing that is really impossible or overdoing, but it's every fence. I like the courses, but every fence has something.
Right. So no traps, but if you were looking into your crystal ball, how many do you think are going to go clear and make it to the jump-off round?
I want to have this crystal ball, but it's difficult to predict. I always like to predict after the class is over, but prediction is very difficult. But what I like, I expecting to be 3 or 4, I will be very happy. I'm more happy if I have more. But if I have less, I have less. I can't go down with the standard. This class is 375 is the speed. They normally jump in 350. They need to be a little bit faster, but it's the different speed that the other classes in the show. And the fences are higher, it's 150. I using 150. I know that I don't building some fences in 145, but most of the vertical will be adding 150 and some oxers in 150. So that is to make the difference.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Leopoldo. We're really looking forward to a great class this afternoon.
Thank you, and thank you to the organizing committee and all of you to invite me to California. This give it to me. I feel more young in my life.
Thank you. And on behalf of Blenheim EquiSports, we thank you for being out here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leopoldo. And now, earlier today, we had a chance to catch up with Chandler Meadows. Hi, Chandler, and welcome.
Thank you, David.
So you've been doing tremendously well lately. You won your first FEI class earlier this year. Tell us, what's been going on with you?
Yeah, I seem to be on a bit of a good streak right now, which I'm trying to keep up my luck a bit. With my horse, I won, like you said, week 3 of thermal meter 45 FEI class, which was my first FEI win. And it was really, really special to me because it was a speed class, and actually the day before it wasn't our best round, so I was excited to kind of have some redemption. And so it was a great start to the year. And since then, we've just been kind of keeping up, and it's been going well.
And tell us about your horse.
My horse, Christy JNR, he is a 12-year-old Belgian warm blood by Doctro. A lot of people actually think he's a mare because he looks like one and he acts like one, and I kind of say he is.
I've heard you call him the red-headed mare.
Yes, the chestnut mare. Yes.
Chestnut mare.
Because typically chestnut mares have some attitude, and he kind of acts like one. So I love him, though. I've had him for almost 2 years. He's just a great horse. He's taught me so much. He's taught me how to go fast. I don't think I've ever had a time fault with him, which is kind of remarkable for myself because I used to be a time fault queen. We've just been we finally, I feel like, clicked, and we found our rhythm together. He's really brave. He's won a derby before with his previous rider, Bertram Allen. So I think he's really, this field out here is great for him.
And now this is a pretty big track today. Any unique strategy you've got planned for today?
Yeah, I think after Thursday, I think he felt really good to me. He was jumping well. He was brave. It's going to be a lot bigger today, I think. It's a $100,000 class, so it should be, respectable for that money. I think the open water might be out there today, which hopefully we're ready for. I think we're ready. We're on a good path.
Well, thank you so much, Chandler, and best of luck this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Horseflight is excellence in international shipping. We like to say when you fly with us, you fly first class.
Horseflight was started by professionals in this industry, so your horse is next to our horse, and that means they're getting the best care, the best attention, the best service possible during their travels.
I felt like I could give something back to the clients, and that's what we try to do. We give first-class service. Give us a call. Call Horseflight, and we'll get your horse here.
Hi, I'm Ashley Bond, and my favorite Sinutra product is Sin-Chill. It is our go-to staple in the barn, whether the horse be wild or nervous or just a little distracted. I just find that, whether you use 1 tube, 2 tubes, 3 tubes, you're able to kind of gauge based on what your horse is dealing with, and it just helps pretty much any situation without taking the quality of the horse's jump and character away. So it is seriously, I could not live without Sin-Chill. I tell everybody about Sin-Chill. It's like, have you heard of Sin-Chill? What's that? Oh, and then it's like, they can't get me to shut up about it. So I've never really been one to support products that I'm not fully vested in. And I would have to say, Sin-Chill has become the most exciting product that I have as part of the LVF team.
Farm Vet is here to support you and your horse both in and out of the show ring. From our highly trained staff to the best horse health product selection, we care about horses. Life out here can get pretty busy, so shop with Farm Vet in 3 convenient ways: by calling our sales team, shopping online, or stopping by one of our mobile locations. Everything you need is just a few steps away. From brushes and bandages to all of your pharmacy needs, Farm Vet has just what you are looking for. From all of us to you, welcome to Farm Vet. We are Horse Health.
And now, let's throw it to Susan Artez and Ray Texel.
Hello, Texel here. Hi, Susan.
Hi, Ray.
A little bit to some of the comments that Leopoldo had mentioned in his introduction, and how much I actually really appreciated some of his thoughts and considerations regarding only, but also our sport. He spoke to the differences of the ring environment, having variety, not coalescing to lower standards, and to maintaining an element, I think, of challenge that is representative of the level at which I believe most of us aspire to be.
Right, I agree with you, Ray, because it's easy to we look at the start field and you realize that there's only 17 horses, or I think there's one scratch now, so only 16 horses jumping for $100,000, and so some people might think, oh well, they need to make it a little softer because of that, but I think it's the opposite. I mean, you want to encourage people to enter, but at the same time, the specs are the specs, and everyone knows that Leopoldo is more on the difficult side and usually sets a quick time allowed, and I don't think he's going to change that just because there's fewer horses in the class.
I agree with you, and I wonder if the would to some degree represent some people who were hesitant to jump into this challenge that they would probably expect from Leopoldo. And myself as a rider, having mentored under George and many other great people, Mike Hennigan and onward, I was always presented with a challenge. There was never the soft considerations, and I was really trained to embrace and push through the challenge in order to be better and more competitive. And I think this course really represents that for all of these riders, regardless of their experience or their horse's experience.
I agree. And I also, for me, I think I feel like some of my best riding is when I feel overly challenged, maybe, because I'm less nervous. I think I'm more nervous when I think I can win something. And I become much more focused when I'm, challenged, or maybe I've got a young horse that isn't, I don't really know for sure if they're up to the task. I think they are, but then I become much more focused and challenged. And I think it's actually one of the reasons we do this sport, right? Because the adrenaline and that little bit of nervousness and excitement, and then when you go in and pull it off, even you may not have a clear round, but if you feel like you did your best and got a lot out of your horse, then I think that's very rewarding for all of us.
Yes, and they're jumping for a total of $100,000 today. That's real money. It's an excellent excellent purse to reach towards. And I also just want to note that I appreciate on this course also some elements that, as we both know, I think, I don't want to speak for you, but we know can be a little just not seen as much anymore. There's a Liverpool under the trees, something that we would see very commonly in Spruce and many other locations globally, which now have become less and less. And I think that's, from my view, a little disappointing, in that it's maybe softening too much to levels who aren't quite ready yet. It's nice to see a water jump in here, although I think this water is very forgiving, of course, with a pole over it. It's judged only at the pole. There's no judging of the tape in this particular water today.
Oh, that is nice. That's nice.
But I like to see these elements back in the course.
This is such a great field to jump on. I remember we used to do some actual sort of jumper derbies here. Remember that? And you would come down the little slide there and kind of up along the top little hillsides and things like that. It's a great field, and like you said, the Liverpool being underneath the trees presents, even in itself, because it's a real Liverpool with real water in it. And even the shadows of the trees, it makes it a little bit more spooky, but it's also beautiful. So I love it.
No, I had a chance to walk this course. I know that you are speaking to me remotely, and I think this is a very good challenge for the money and for the level. 1 and 2 are traversing the ring, going a bit sideways across the ring, and number 2, you're jumping, very much sort of right into the end of the ring, and I'm sure that will be represented on camera for some. And then the turn back on the next line with that wall off the corner, which you'll notice at 3, really starts to challenge the horse's transitions.
Here we go with the national anthem.
This will be an interesting class, Susan. It's a long track, a lot of flat galloping time, and it's a very careful and sizable course.
And I know Kyle King, knows this horse really well. They've become quite a formidable pair lately. So, and I think, does Kyle have 3 horses in this class?
I believe he does, and Kyle brings a lot of experience. Kyle has ridden all the difficult tracks. This is nothing new for him as a rider, and I'll be interested to see his experience showing through his rides here.
Right, it'll be interesting to see, how much he's able to take away from his first ride to his next ride, and on from there. So.
Yes. He definitely has an advantage. He's got 3 of this slightly smaller group. So that first 7 is pretty much right on stride like that. It's not very long, but you can see how that turn is a bit abrupt and right to the wall, which can hold the horse a little bit. 5 for him was very comfortable. Time will be
a little
consideration.
Tricky, though, right off the bat, isn't it?
Yes, and the water, as Leopoldo said, comes early. Didn't look like any problem for Kyle.
It's nice that, as you said, that they're only, when there's a pole over the water, they only judge the pole itself and not whether they cross the actual length of the water or the width of the water.
Now,
so you don't have to override
horse jumped
it.
His horse jumped pretty strong through that oxer off that roll back and just leaned a little bit into B. There's another front rail again. Now this horse has a little bit of yes, and I would say this horse has a little bit of an inverted style in his shoulder. Now, Susan, I may be mistaken, but it looked to me from my angle on the screen that he did a 6 to the last fence. Is that what you got there?
I believe so, yes.
So I walked that line,
and
it when you walk that line, it walks in a quite a boxy, we would say boxy or short 7. But this horse carries a very big step, as you can see there on the replay. How far out he lands into the combination there.
Right, I think
really
that's
puts himself.
Certainly it makes the lines get short for him simply because of his arc. Like you said, his shoulders and his bascule is a little bit different, and he lands further into the line. So he has a big enough step, certainly, but I think he gets down those lines sometimes nearly too quickly, including when you jump into a double. Maybe he just was too deep at B there.
Well, and a horse like that carries a very big step across the ground, and then you have some of these elements requiring a real a quick shortening and elevating that shoulder, and so that horse just got a little low in those 2 places.
It certainly does appear to be a very short rollback turn after number 2, right off the bat, right? A little bit more like an indoor course.
Yes. It doesn't really, I wouldn't say that it really gets you going yet, right? 1, 2 is a little boxy, short turn to 3, and then things start to open up a little bit more on this course. Now, Beth Underhill is certainly no stranger to what I would say, meaty or careful tracks. She's a very experienced Canadian rider.
This horse looks a little bit difficult to turn, doesn't it? I mean, I feel like, really a trier. She did very well when we were out in the desert recently with this horse. But I do think that time allowed, she shouldn't have a problem, right?
I think so. I mean, as I watch her now, she's carrying a beautiful step. In general, very level. She's taking a moment here, looks like, to just set up this double a little bit more. I think this horse can easily get a little bit past her hand as well. And with this long, flat course, it looks like she wants to really be careful about letting him get too long in his body. She's trying to keep the compression and keep him elevated.
I
Beautiful
still
placement.
have a feeling that this horse just isn't that easy to turn. Sometimes these kind of bridles, they are a little bit difficult to turn. So I just think that triple bar is so attractive.
Beautiful 6.
So far,
There's
so
the
good.
7.
Oh,
Beautiful.
That was quite a lucky
That was
rub
beautifully
in front,
ridden.
right?
Yes. Beautifully ridden. I think Beth examples great poise. Great, you can see the experience through her body control, her placement of the horse. She knows where and how she needs to arrive to give him the best opportunity to use his body well. And as much as he's a little bit difficult, you can see there's not a lot of conflict happening.
Right, it did look like she maybe overrode that last jump a little bit to make sure that a little bit of a spooky horse, I think, and I feel like she really, you could see her elbows flopping a little bit, flapping her wings to make sure that she got there with enough momentum, and maybe she was worried about him looking at the butterflies a little bit.
So the walking that line, Susan, it's right at the in gate, this double, and then you're stepping again away from the gate to what Leopoldo admitted is the largest on the course, and the contrast of those orange rails against that side, going into that tent on the end, a horse really has to focus on the rails there. You just need a careful horse there.
I'm sure her dogs were watching from a distance with the golf cart. I know that she would always bring her golf cart up to the back of the Grand Prix arena during the desert circuit, and they have their dog beds, and the dog beds are sort of on the grass next to the golf cart. So they're pretty happy dogs. She takes them everywhere.
Luis is giving his horse, something for younger riders to always take note of is the importance of your entrance and your presentation to your horse, and the consideration of where you're going and what you're looking to show your horse potentially. And you could see Luis there just giving his horse a little look at both of the water elements as they are next to each other. And here he gets another pass by on his way to 1.
And I'm assuming, you've probably been there all week, so I'm assuming that maybe in some of the other classes, maybe something was given as an option to be able to jump either the Liverpool or even the open water. Ooh.
There were some. What a beautiful bascule this horse has. You see him with no martingale of any kind, very free through the shoulder, clearly either wants no restriction on the horse or just feels this allows the horse to maybe move and operate better. But this is a real athlete, this horse, watching him jump. No problem over the water.
Yeah, I've just met this gentleman when we were in the desert, and he is such a spectacular rider. His flat work is impeccable, and it's really lovely to have another rider that we're not used to seeing out here on the West Coast that we can all watch and learn from.
I appreciate
look down at a little bit,
his
right?
hands. Yep, a little peek at it,
absolutely.
but I appreciate his hands and his connection. It's a beautiful contact. Look at that horse reach over that oxer. Beautiful.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like a clear round about to happen.
And he's got to power up a little bit here. This is very wide. Easy for this horse.
Beautiful. That was really quite lovely to watch.
That was borderline equitation like for this pair.
Right, and they know each other well, and I agree with you. I think there's most of us are a little insecure about going in with no martingale, and especially you can see that this horse maybe would hit the martingale and get a little fussy, so maybe that's why he opts not to use one.
The horse carried himself beautifully, and what a lovely expression the whole time. You could see great interest in the horse with Luis.
And close to the time allowed, but the time allowed doesn't really appear to be much of a huge factor for these experienced riders.
He was just under at 78, and certainly did not look like he was concerned about the time. He looked very at ease, and sometimes watching on the video makes the horse look like it's going a little slower than it actually is, right, with the frame rate of cameras. But
right.
Boy, he made that look easy.
He certainly did. Here we have Sean Cassidy, and this horse looks quite animated today, more so than I'm used to seeing it.
Yes, he looks very ready, we would say. And Sean is Sean has great feel. He's a very natural rider. I've seen him on and off myself, in and out of the ring, and I appreciate his grit.
Right, he's a hard worker. He's really trying to make a name for himself in the sport as a young adult, just out of the young rider ranks, I think. Oh.
Just gets a little stiff there in his hand when he has to fit that in. There's the 2 sticks that you're allowed at any obstacle, encouraging the horse through the water.
Didn't want to take any chances.
And also, it could be serving as a preparation for the next obstacle right between the trees. Right, Sean's obviously come in with a little bit of an override at this part of the course. No problem there. Maybe that was some benefit of the stick at the water before.
Sure. Ooh, didn't quite fit that in as well as he would have liked to.
Yes, it looks to me that there's he's a bit on the edge of having to be a little aggressive and supportive of the horse, and with that extra amount of support and override, that unfortunately he just loses a little bit of his shape off of the ground as a result. And I think as this horse gets maybe more experienced or has more rounds in this type of environment, he would start to relax a little bit more, which would then, give Sean the ability to allow the horse instead of having to support him so strong.
Right, it just does look like it's a work in progress still, and just not quite up to a clear round on today's course.
But what's nice to see there is an effective rider, and the horse comes out of a round like that having gained something out of that.
Yeah, he should be braver and more consistent as time goes on.
Now, I've always been myself a fan of Lisa Carlson since I was first aware of her when I was much younger, starting on the tour at the time. And there's not many stronger riders that I can think of. If I think about Lisa Carlson, I know this is a rider who will always get it done, who's very strong and very effective, and is certainly no stranger to very challenging courses.
No, and she spent the entire winter, I think, the fall and the winter. They came out to the desert circuit back in the Sunshine series in November, and she stayed all the way through March. And I had an opportunity to kind of observe her daily activities, and she's about as hard a worker as they come. So I certainly have a great deal of respect for her, not only for the things that she's already won and accomplished, but just in her everyday perseverance. It's quite impressive.
One and two look quite nice and comfortable at this moment. Good shape over 3. There was a little hesitation there in front of 4AB with that careful combination.
I feel like sometimes those little gates underneath, the horses do tend to look down at those a little bit, don't they?
Yes, they do. I really appreciate the angle that we have on the camera here, because I think it really shows beautifully how, and this is a definition I use often with my own students, but and often with people who don't know the sport well, is that a course is a never-ending series of transitions, and you really get a sense of people's flat work, their ability to navigate and work a transition.
Oh.
Lisa just lost a little bit of horse there. He got a little bit hung up on the way in, which took a little bit of the jump away. We've seen that again here. Yes.
And this horse is really trying. Horse.
He put it together again at the last fence nicely there. Looked like the horse got a little over careful on the front end and was hitting his arc and dropping a little bit behind. Lisa, you could see, really trying to dig in to activate that hind quarter and get him through the arc. You can see there, even at the water, how he takes that moment off the ground. And here she just got a little deeper than I think she wanted to in the 3. And then he really stood off that oxer, anticipating the effort.
Yeah, he almost
so he just got a little
shifted a little bit too.
That's right. So he jumped a little, he got a little behind her leg in that moment.
I do like that analogy of considering the entire course being a series of transitions, but it's true. You have to have a horse that can lengthen and shorten and, move laterally, and, and it is all flat work in between. So obviously you need a good jumper, but your flat work has to be effective.
And I think as a point for any younger riders out there, I mean, why do we work so hard on the flat? Well, because a course is all flat work, and jumping is leaving the ground and landing. And everything to the jump and everything away from the jump is, emulative of your flat work, and keeping a horse sharp and attentive to your aids. It's like you get into, you drive a Tesla, you have instant acceleration, instant braking. You get into another vehicle, a combustion vehicle, and sometimes you hit that gas and there's a delay. Sometimes you hit those brakes and it's a delay. And we're trying as riders to minimize that delay.
I've never driven a Tesla.
Oh, okay.
I've never driven a Tesla, so I don't actually know the difference. That's interesting. Here we have Kyle on his second mount.
Lovely to 1. Lovely first fence. First line really just seems to be bringing all the horses into the course in a nice way. The wall hasn't been much of an issue.
No, and sometimes it can be, but with that cutout hole in the middle, sometimes that's a very awkward thing, I think, for the horses to see if they're not used to seeing it.
And what you're seeing is you're not seeing a huge override from some of these riders at that water. Again, because it's just a pole over it, it's almost a useful element. Ride up to the base, let your horse jump back at you, and it helps set you up for that skinny.
Right, but correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like you never really want to underride it just because you don't want to teach them to not cross.
Yes, but the difference is that you're not having to have that huge gallop that you typically have to carry to get across in open water. So here you're able to kind of ride up to the bottom, and if they hesitate, well, it might be helpful for them. And I think that Kyle is a good example right now of how he is using each of these elements to sort of prepare for the next one. Beautiful ride.
That was awfully
Beautiful
nice.
ride.
That was so nice to
Beautiful
watch.
ride.
Congratulations.
Won a great ride on course 76.076 seconds.
To me, his
Made
ride
that
and
one really
Luis's
easy
ride
to
were in some
calculate.
ways. Yes, he did. He did. I was just saying that to me, his ride and Luis's ride were a bit similar in the way where they were just very comfortable. They looked very confident. The horses are very, I would say, dialed in, very focused. You're seeing in his ride and Luis's ride a similar level of technical precision.
And sophistication, for sure.
The champion of the 100,000 meter 50 Gold Tour Grand Prix of receiving a wonderful gift certificate.
It's nice to see this course riding this way for the riders. When I first walked it, I didn't know quite what to expect, as sometimes we don't. But I think this is riding well for everyone at this moment.
They excel at incorporating photos, logos, and custom colors as well as drive, providing farm gift ideas and post-show prizes. For more information,
And I would suppose that has very much to do with what you're sitting on, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's, it's so easy to watch from afar. And I do think the course looks big enough. I mean, I think Leopoldo's done a magnificent job. The time allowed is fair. You can't dilly-dally by any means, but it's fair. And he really used the material nicely, too. I think the place looks beautiful.
Yes, I think this would be a very different course if the time was much shorter than it is. I think at this time, it's enough pressure for the riders, but you can see there really isn't a huge need to hurry, if you will, like you might experience somewhere like Spruce, where this course would exist, but you'd probably have 3 less seconds to do it.
Right, and that certainly makes a difference because they're allowed to. They have enough time to give themselves enough time when they roll back after the skinny and the water jump. Here we have Hannah looking pretty good here, and she's a local rider from the San Diego area, which is only maybe about 40 miles from San Capistrano, where the Oaks is.
Yes, I would imagine that she has an opportunity to show here quite a bit. And if I'm not mistaken, does Hannah not represent Sweden in her riding?
I believe she does. And she and this horse have been a team for quite a long time.
Easy in the 3 for this horse. That's very big, rangy stride.
I feel like she could be risking a time fault here. Let's see. No, she should be all right. This is very good for her. There you
That
go.
was very nicely
Did she make the
ridden.
time? Yep. Close, but beautiful. You're going to have a great jump off, right?
Well, I was just about to say I'm pleased to see this happening for many of these riders, and I think this will be an excellent opportunity for good sport and a very competitive jump off for sure.
Yeah, she should be really thrilled with that. And I think, you know, she made quite a sharp turn here to this, and I think that's what saved her with the time.
Yes, I think she was clever with the use of her turns. On that horse was a very long stride. The use of a shorter turn can, of course, help to compress and maintain the shape of the horse. And I think you could see, you know, Hannah cleverly using her turns as an aid.
How does that line walk? Does it walk short?
Which line are you referring to?
Against the VIP.
The three walks, I would say, a little rangy, but it obviously has a lot to do with how you jump in and the way that the
right.
Sorry, let me refer to my numbers so that I don't get that wrong. So fence 9, the way that jump is built, which I don't think is so easy to see on the camera, it's built with one of those standards when you have the plank in the front of it. And the fill is sort of in the front, but it gives a slightly false appearance of an oxer. So I think the idea there was to really hold the rider a little more and make that 3 get a little more scopy than necessary. But I don't really see it riding that way for most of the riders right now.
Well, and that's something that Leopoldo is so brilliant at being able to do. You know, there's those little things that an inexperienced rider, that's the benefit of when you are an inexperienced rider of working with someone who is experienced, because you may not necessarily take that into consideration when you're a course walk.
Yes, I think that Leopoldo. Yeah, and this horse just dropped a little bit behind there, jumping into that short end on number 2, and had that behind. Looks like he's making a good effort to correct his hind quarter here, off of that rail.
I was just thinking the same thing.
But this horse has also a lovely expression. You can see he really studies the fence. I think Michelle is an excellent rider. I've always seen her just being very effective, very bold. I've jumped off against her many times, and she's one of those riders when I know that she's been very fast. I have to take that into account because I think she's a very bold forward rider. I've always appreciated her riding.
Yeah, there's nothing timid about Michelle, that's for sure.
Really appreciate the use of her voice as an aid. She's very light off the ground, this horse, isn't he? He really has a lovely effort off the ground. And then there just a little, you know, we would say maybe that just got a little scopy and rangy for that horse jumping into the end of the ring there. And it is a very big oxer.
And it does look like they have a little bit of a hard time staying straight down that last line. They all want to wander a little bit.
Yes. Well, this course has a lot of, has quite a few rollbacks and turns. I think the horses get a little bit tuned up to turning, and now you're holding them down this kind of long, starey last line like this. And as they're trying to be careful, as you and I both experienced many times in our own riding, horses start shifting a little bit, don't they, to make room, right? You can see there that was a little bit of a left to. Yes, and I was going to make a point to something you said before, which regarding Leopoldo, and I would put many course builders in the same light, meaning like somebody like Alan Wade and many others. They really deal in the art of subtlety, and I think great riding is something that comes down to a lot of strength and subtleties. And a good course builder to me, like what we see here today, any of the errors that are happening are I would call them positive errors. They're mistakes or rails that will benefit you later, instead of decimating or taking away from your ride or your partnership.
Right, and I feel like our course designers that we have seen lately, I feel like that's happening less. As far as I think a lot of our horses are coming up as well as they can, as well as they should. I think, a few years ago, maybe you saw some things that were so difficult for younger horses or inexperienced riders that they would come away from a class having to move down and jump lower classes for a few horse shows before they were able to move back up again. And I have to say, I think in the last year and a half that I've seen better course design that helps these horses and riders to come along. I mean, we are the West Coast. We don't have nearly the capacity of horses and riders to jump at this level that they do on the East Coast. And I think the course designers take that into consideration and are really helping to try to make us help us to make better horses and riders.
I would agree with that, and I think it's just obviously this is what we do, right? We work over courses. We want to be better. We want to receive these challenges and improve, but we also must be challenged. Now, this is the first horse we've seen have the wall down. Just jumped a little bit into it.
That's a little bit unusual, isn't it? Mitch, obviously, the son of Mike Endicott, who is a very seasoned competitor himself, although not really showing so much anymore. But Michael doesn't always get to come and watch Mitch's rounds. Hopefully he's here this week because it is pretty close to where they live.
Yes, I was not a child of the sport. I came into the sport as an outsider, and Mitch was born into the sport with a father and a mother who both are very competitive, each in their own right. And so I think that Mitch has had a lot of time and lots of experience from an early age, and it's nice to see him in this class.
And respectable riding, I must say. He's really come a long way in the last couple of years, for sure.
Nice ride for Mitchell.
It's difficult in this angle. It looked to me again like that was a 6. It's a little hard on the angle that from the camera there to see, but it almost looks like he just needed to get up to that 6 a little sooner so he could, look to hold the horse a little bit more off the ground and provide a little bit more help and elevation. The horse just got a little through that behind.
And when watching the replay at the wall, it looks like maybe he was worried about the horse taking a little bit of a look at that cutout on the wall and maybe just rode past the distance a little bit.
Yeah, I think, Susan, we just don't jump enough walls anymore. We used to,
I agree.
Now I'm dating myself, which is crazy to think about for myself, but we used to have walls into combinations. That was not an uncommon experience. And riding a wall can be tricky. Riding a wall a horse can back off of it. I give great consideration as a rider myself to other riders of their ability to sense and gauge how much pressure and support is needed at any given more maybe challenging obstacle. This is a horse I really like. This horse, I have to say, I appreciated the video of Chandler in the beginning, and I think the two of them are a lovely partnership. And I think this is that type of horse for a younger upcoming rider like her, who's already now won an FEI class for herself at a good level. This horse was going to provide her such a great opportunity in her career for confidence and I think great results.
She may be our only young rider in today's class. Except for, I guess Mitchell, it would be considered that as well. Not too many young riders here today, but I guess a lot of them that are chasing some young rider points have had to go elsewhere.
got a little hung up there at the water. You see her, which is nice to see, a very instant and good reaction after that little hang up. She landed and really spurred the horse forward. But of course, that's not a rail because we're not judging the tape on this water.
Right, the tape being made out of a little lath piece of wood, so it just breaks in half very easily. Yeah, I was worried about that. I'm sure you were too, that when she had that little stickiness at the water jump, that you knew that she was going to have to ride quite hard to the next Liverpool.
Yes. And with the I think this is also part of experience, is that with that difficulty she experienced, to be, one might offer that she would then have to really dig in for that next water even stronger to ensure that she didn't have that issue there, because you could almost expect it at that point.
Absolutely, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking that, oh wow, she better really ride that Liverpool hard after that. But, the horse did jump it, and so now she knows the next time that she's faced with jumping an open water, that she'll have to prepare for it, maybe more so than she ever would have imagined. And sometimes it's different in practice, right?
Yeah. Yes, and what the distance she was looking for there to that Liverpool under the trees was a fairly fluid distance, wasn't it? It wasn't a distance that she really was able to maintain the shortness of the horse's body to really make sure he's under himself. So she kind of dared him a little bit at that distance there, and after the water previously, I'd say that was a little risky to choose that distance for her horse.
Right, I feel like that was just again showing just her lack of experience, because you certainly generally don't want to be long to a jump that your horse may back off of, right? But that just comes with experience to know that. You want to be strong,
Absolutely.
but not long.
Yeah, I made an expression, or I don't know if I made it. I shouldn't say that. I said this expression. I haven't heard it before to a student of mine today who did something similar in his round. I said 2 longs don't make a right. So you can't be on this long stride and then look for this very long distance on a horse who's very careful and has a tendency to back off. So the thing I said to him today was 2 longs don't make a right. And I think that was maybe an example of that.
But I think you should, I would keep it and steal it and claim it as your own, because I like it.
It's free for everybody, no problem.
Okay, I'm stealing it then.
Luis is back on interestingly a similar mount.
Right?
Similar feel across the ground, not quite as lofty as the other horse off the ground. Beautiful over the wall.
I will admit, in watching him and these 2 very light gray horses, I do get them confused. I can't remember which one is which as far as their names go.
Not a common thing often to see a rider with 2 horses that can be looked at very similarly.
Right, I've got 2 liver chestnuts right now, which is unusual. You rode a little bit hard there. I think that Liverpool sometimes almost rides a little bit more spooky than the water jump, like I said, because of the shadows and the trees.
This horse looks very comfortable over this course. This horse looks very comfortable and very relaxed through this course.
It looks super easy. Should have no problem having a clear round here. Hopefully,
that one stride by the gate is pretty short. After all of this opening and galloping, and it's he placed his horse beautifully at the plank to let that plank hold him a little bit, set him up for B, and make that 7 comfortable.
He really has a feel for the time allowed, because he was just under the time allowed, but he didn't even chase the horse through the timers. He just has a real feel for that.
A word that I've heard before, and I've also used with my own students, explaining things and referencing obviously a beautiful rider, BZ Madden, is uninterrupted. And I think his ride was pretty representative of what I would call as a relatively uninterrupted ride. And I think it's always lovely to see those kinds of rides. That's what we're all, I think, striving for if we have the horse to be able to do that with.
Yeah, I think he's one of, honestly, I mean, he's just absolutely beautiful to watch every single time.
Well, so Luis Sabino has 2 in the jump off.
And his results show how well that works.
Third ride, he has already qualified Enzo for the jump off round.
Kyle coming in again, like many riders, giving his horse a little reassurance as he walks by these waters, lets them have a quick view of the change in the light and texture of that area, giving them a little preview. You see that little breathing strip on the nose.
Right, the breathe right strips, just like for people. Just kind of tends to open the nasal passages a little bit, which seems to help some horses. I mean, some horses have allergies just like people, and allergy medications generally are not something that can be used in competition because of their side effects. So I've never tried these strips before, but I don't have a lot of experience with them, therefore. But some people really like them.
Well, I think it's always interesting to see differences in tack and equipment as to learn about their intentions, what they're meant to assist, whether it's the horse, the rider, the package, the combination. And there are many horses that also hold their breath like people, that hold their breath longer, and therefore are gasping a little bit more for air on those flat parts of the course. Now, Kyle, again, that horse shifted a little bit off the ground into that right front shoulder and had the wall. Nice ride into the water there from Kyle.
This horse looks like a very good water jumper. Had a lot of height.
It was a lovely example of a transition there. Kyle really getting the horse back after the water before the skinny, and then he was able to soften at the skinny, and his horse didn't at that point run through his hands, and just a nice, lovely transition to watch there.
And at this point, he is, thinking about the time a little bit, because there's, not very many clear, and being the fast 4 faulter would certainly benefit him in the overall money prize giving.
Yes, I think we can both speak to that idea that, the having one down and getting on it. You want to try to be as best you can within reason, the fastest 4.
What a beautiful ride, Kyle King and Edelon, unfortunately.
And that looked like he landed and wanted to maybe do 6 strides to the last jump and changed his mind, but that horse was so adjustable, he was able to fit the 7 in at the last minute, really, to make sure that he jumped it clear.
You could just see there off that replay how the horse just had that little, moment off the ground with that right front, just that soft delay there, which, made him just roll a little bit over that shoulder. It's a good example for viewers and especially riders who are, learning or working towards their future to see how those subtleties matter, how you're getting, we say square to our students, right? Get square off the ground, and, managing the horse laterally, meaning the side to side shift of the horse. And for those who aren't riders, who aren't familiar, I think something special about our sport is that you are just on a constant variable, and you can train all the time, but you go in the ring and there are these little variables that come up, and your goal, I hope, is to be able to account for those. Now, Susan, I had a nice conversation with Will earlier today, and we were having some laughs together, and I was saying, Will, what do you need to do this for? You've got a gold medal. Why aren't you just parading that around here? You have an Olympic gold medal, and he owns this horse himself. And he was telling me, Ray, I just love it. I just enjoy it. Whatever happens, I just love doing it. Will does a lot of other equestrian activities in the Western realm, and I just love Will's diversity, and I just appreciate him as a horseman who's just always trying to better and improve and continue to work at this for himself.
Well, and Will also does sometimes, he does things a little differently than others. You'll see him out there doing some cowboy tricks with the upper level jumpers, and not tricks, I shouldn't say, but just some ways of making them turn better and that kind of thing. And, Will has had a lot of success over his career with horses that are difficult, more difficult than most. I don't think he had, he didn't have really exceptional special horses early in his career. So he's had to, learn how to make the best out of some horses that maybe other riders would pass on. And I think that
Well,
Choco P is a little bit like that.
Well, Will is scrappy and strong and super experienced. That's too bad at the end there. And
That is too bad.
This is a Choco Blue, and many Choco Blues are known for being very bold and very strong. I think this horse is very representative of that. Will has had some great results with this horse, and at times some difficult rounds with this horse, just based on the horse's nature, which is to be very bold and very aggressive. And it's puts a lot of pressure on Will to be able to, like you can see here, really manage the arc to really try to regulate this horse as he leaves the ground. And in this position, that very short line there for this horse, you could see Will was really in the hand, and the horse just jumped a little bit against his hand and dropped the shoulder as a result. Something we experience on the flat again. When a horse is inverting, they're bracing against the ground, and it delays that front end off the ground.
Well, now we see our ring crew breaking down and preparing to set up for our jump off.
The question here I would have would be how aggressive will these riders be in the jump off with a shorter number of riders? I'm curious to see, how aggressive and how quick we're going to be out here.
I think, it's $100,000, right? So I feel like we've got very fast riders in the jump off. This surface, simply by the nature of being California grass, you're not going to see as quick of turns as you will, say, on the synthetic footing that we have in most of the events that we are now competing in. So I'm sure that Leopoldo takes that into consideration, as every course designer does, taking into consideration what the footing is and the surface that they're pushing off of and turning through. So I feel like you'll see maybe more galloping and a little slowing down through the turns.
Yes, and this jump off is I like this jump off. I think it's a good test. It's appropriate. I walked these lines, and I'm gonna hold back from getting into all the numbers. I'm curious to see how this evolves. The first line offers for sure a direct line with a bit of an aggressive ride, 1 to 2. I should say 7B to 15. I think this will be a good...
I'm looking at my chart. Okay, so 7B to 15. So 15 being a new obstacle that's not on the course originally.
Mm-hmm. There's I like this course when there's some related numbers, and then I always appreciate seeing riders have to gallop off of their eye, especially, we would call it like a little bit flat racing almost. You're really getting the horse open and very flat, and then having to, repackage or regulate, for the distance, depending on what's coming. The turn, there's a turn at the end. There's a long gallop from 4AB to 16. It's a pretty long gallop, and depending on how aggressive you obviously want to get to that oxer and have a moment to spin back on this last line. And there is a leave out in the last line. Just depends off that short turn if you're able to really extend and open. And I immediately think of Luis's first gray horse as probably being the type of horse that would be an expert at this big open gallop, because he just holds himself so beautifully off the ground, that lovely bascule. I feel like we'll be watching potentially a working hunter cantering around here.
Well, that sounds exciting, and I want to point out, because when you look at this jump off, even though viewers haven't maybe necessarily seen the numbers, but when your first round ends with, say, jump number 13, and then the course designer opts to use jumps in the jump off that were not on course in the first round, they usually skip a number, such as the number 14, and that's why the first jump that you would see in the jump off that wasn't used in the first round would be number 15. Is that correct?
Yes. Often that is the case, exactly.
Obviously, we don't, need as much time in between the first round and the jump off when we don't have to water and drag the arena in between rounds.
Yes, and also interestingly enough, it's not. I think this course rode very well for everybody, from what I could see. Nobody actually really had any sort of great struggles. When I first walked it, I thought, oh, this could be interesting. I'd like to kind of see how these questions will be. But again, I think I'd come back to a point, which is normally there would be this in-ground Liverpool, and there would be a water, and there would be these questions, and now when it's in the ring, it's something that we focus a little more on, like, oh, look, there's a Liverpool in ground in between the trees. And that used to be very common for us. And to some degree, I know
we
the
really don't have
arguments
many of
can.
that anymore.
Sure, and I understand there's always two sides of any discussion. However, the question would come: has the sport become potentially a little complacent, and has it catered a little bit too much to certain levels to make it itself more accessible, which of course supports the business, but in the same time, have we softened the sport too much? And these are big questions, and I think they're important discussions to have and to continue all across our country about what are we looking to produce here, and where is that direction coming from? Because at the moment, it's really individual, up to each individual. It's up to each individual competition, isn't it? And course builder, manager, so on and so forth. There's a lot of considerations involved, but at the end, there should be some driving force that's bringing us there. And I as a rider growing up in the sport, really felt that. In my younger riding times in the junior jumpers, it was me, Nicky Simpson, Lauren Huff, McLean Ward, and just to name some, and many more. And you never got to ask a question about the course or the show, or have a comment or a criticism, or put that jump down, or move that wall, that's too tough, or this water's too this. I mean, that was not even allowed. And now there's a lot more room there. And I think sometimes within that room, I appreciate the considerations and the dialogue, but are we losing our direction just a little bit? And I know that's a big statement, but why not ask the question?
There's nothing wrong with you. I think it's fine to make that bold statement, and I think a lot of people that have experience in our sport, people that are older and more experienced even than you or myself, have certainly brought that topic up in conversation, because it's important. We are needing still to develop young riders into international competitors that can represent our country in international sport. And if you take away that learning capability at a young age, then those kids are scared. You don't want to be 25 years old by the time the first time you jump an open water on grass in an open field. And I mean, it should be a part of everyone's education. And I think we have seen that go in the wrong direction, even in was it the Maclay Regionals, or something where a few horses stopped at the beginning of the course, and so they stopped the class and they changed the box and they let those people go again if they wanted to. And I really I know that was a big controversy, but I agree with you. I think that if you're not ready, don't go, and challenge yourself. And if you have trouble that time, then you come back the next time better prepared, and you go from there. It's the only way to get better.
That is correct, and that's of course a philosophy, and I think that's for me, that's an important one to maintain. If you're going to be competitive at a top level, you have to ask these questions. I was recently out east a couple times in Palm Beach, and was fortunate to watch a couple weekends in their derby fields. I don't recall the name exactly what they like to call it, but this beautiful grass field. It's almost like a separate facility, and they're jumping this regularly and routinely. This would not just be one-off class. This type of competition would be very regular. And obviously, I would like to see that more across the country as a whole, not just to make it east-west, because it isn't east-west. It's our nation, and what is our direction?
I think that's an excellent point, Ray. And I feel like this venue is one of the last ones that I know of that we even have a water jump anymore. I mean, they put one in the desert, but that's kind of a temporary one. It was a beautiful water. It was decorated amazingly, and all the horses jumped it well. I know I took my young horses out and jumped it in the Tuesday clear round class because they had never jumped one, and I was very excited to do it. And it went well, but we just don't have the opportunity anymore. We used to have an open water at the LA Equestrian Center, along with a ditch in the Liverpool, which maybe they'll bring that back at some point. But I think that you bring up a very good point, that we need to have more of this, because if any of these riders plan on having an international career, they need to get their feet wet, no pun intended, now.
Absolutely. And I think the focus shouldn't just be on the, always who's buying the best horses or what horses have the most experience, but let's get these riders salty. Let's get them gritty. Let's get them toughened up and experienced, so that when they are at this level and they get that wonderful horse, that they're at the top of the game, and we can be well represented internationally. Now, I imagine our first horse would be coming up fairly soon, right?
It looks like the course is certainly ready.
One thing I always recall from my experiences riding Leopoldo's courses, mostly a lot of times in Spruce Meadows. He built there for many years, very aggressively, and I always liked his courses because he gave you a lot of room to really gallop. And I don't know. I guess I remember growing up riding and how much I loved going out in that field and just galloping. And I like these courses when you have an opportunity to really open up the horse and really gallop and really sort of show yourself off, if you will, and your partner.
Well, and it's fun for the spectators too.
Leopoldo, I often remember always having these long gallops to the last final jump, right in front of the crowd or right in front of the sponsors, and it really elevated the viewing experience. Now, Beth is our first horse in. As the first rider in the jump off, there's just so many different ways to approach this. Do I go with my ultra fast winning round? Do I go for my fastest, just being mindful of my being very clear? Do I do a fast clear? Do I really lay it on the line and put the pressure on the rest of the riders? And it'd be interesting to see Beth's approach today.
Well, I mean, this is such a careful horse, and a bit spooky. I think that she will put the pedal to the metal a little bit. I mean, you got to give them something to chase. And I think this horse is almost better in a jump off than in a first round, because she doesn't really have to set him up as much. He's so careful. And I do think this horse doesn't turn that well. So if this is a fast across the ground jump off rather than a lot of tight turns, I think she'll have an advantage.
There's the 7, the direct 7 to the yellow. She's pretty quick here on a little angle. Yeah, that was an aggressive angle. She knows the horse. She's quick back to the double.
Oh, too quick,
and
perhaps.
potentially there's that carefulness in this horse, right?
Remember, he looked down at those little gates the first time around, so maybe that wasn't the place for her to try to be too quick.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, he did.
Well, that's too bad. And so,
Beth,
certainly now she's not worried about anything except just giving this horse a confident ride.
Yes, now she's just trying to keep it together and get a score. He's a little bit, maybe a little bit off right now.
A little worried.
His mentality. Yeah. The last jump is a nice ramp. It's in the shadows. I don't consider the last jump as much of a difficult fence. There is a leave out to that we'll probably see from a couple other riders. It's also ramped with that nice box underneath, giving almost a bit of a base type of ground line at it. So you can really, if you really wanted to take a shot, the opportunity is there. It was too bad for that horse.
That is too bad, because he is such a careful horse and he's very competitive. And I think he, for some reason, he looked even harder this time around than he did in the first round down at those little gates.
Well, as you know, sometimes when you put the pressure on and you go forward, it almost makes the horse back into you. You know, sometimes like when you're trying to convince somebody to do something, then they just kind of dig their heels in about it, right? And we find that often with a lot of, yes, sometimes a careful horse like that can show that. No, this horse just has such a very quiet, relaxed way. He almost looks like he's about to start an equitation class right now in this pace. Very relaxed, very confident, very comfortable.
And Louis, I actually don't know whether he prefers Louis or Louis, but I'm going to go with Luis, maybe? Louis?
Luis,
Anyway,
yeah, Luis.
feel Luis, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I'll find out soon enough, but he seems to really give horses confidence. He seems very calm. I'm sure he can ride any type of horse, but with these particular horses, he just has such a calming effect.
Well, I was always taught that the horse, absorbs very often what the rider brings. Beautiful
sure.
First line. This horse just is so light and easy off the ground. It doesn't look like he's going very fast, but he carries a very big step and he's very efficient. He hangs up a little in the air, takes a little time away, but he's very careful there on the way out.
Did you see that somehow I think he actually bumped the bottom rail of that jump and it rolled a little in the cups, but it was the white rail underneath the green one. That was interesting.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And there's a very easy 9 for him at the end. It was a lovely ride, very, very much like the first round. He elevated his rhythm slightly, but looked to me like he just played it a little careful and wanted to make sure he got a decent time and a careful, clear round.
But he's so smooth. I mean, I think you'll find that he is quicker than he looks.
In a second, back on the hill and count me in.
Here we have Kyle on his only clear mount out of the 3 that he had. I'm sure he was thankful for that. And this is the horse he knows the best. It's the one he's had the longest. He's very comfortable with this horse.
Right in the middle here, Kyle King aboard Enzo.
Well, Kyle's no stranger to riding very fast. Kyle is a great example of a rider who can ride very fast, but who can, I think, focus and ride very still within that speed, which gives the horse great confidence. And I think we'll see Kyle take a very good shot at this.
And Kyle's a very fast rider by nature. Checking the brakes.
Kyle obviously starting there.
Finely tuned.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, checking in on his rideability.
A little quiet there. But this horse has such a big step. He put a little more bend in the second.
Yes, he did. He was able to carry a little more. He's a little quicker over now. A little bit more like Beth here to 12B. You can see him really wanting to square the horse up off the turn. Yep.
That was well done.
There's the 9.
Oh.
The horse just got a little plain there, right? Just kind of leaned into his aids there. Looked almost like perhaps he stared.
Yeah.
It almost looked like he was maybe just staring through it a little bit. It was a very long, smooth 9, and it almost just looked like it just got too nice.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't look like no kind of a real mistake on the rider's part, but just one of those things that you wish didn't happen.
Yep. My own expression when that would happen to me, something like that's sometimes hard to define unless you're the actual rider who felt it. I would sometimes say, well, I think my horse just kind of left the building right there, But
that could be.
It was too bad because it was a hind rail, and you know, which typically when you see a hind rail traveling through like that, the horse didn't. It means the horse didn't slow off the ground and have that little moment. So it just looked to me like that 9 just got very smooth, and that last transition off the ground just never happened. He just sort of jumped through it, sort of like a horse getting through your hand when you're making a collection.
It did look like, you know, he pulled a little harder maybe in front than he normally does. So maybe he felt that and tried to save it a little bit at the last minute, but it just didn't work. And that is still only 4 faults, even though both of the top rails fell down. It's still only considered 4 faults.
Thank goodness for that, because I've had plenty of rounds where I've done worse than that.
Right?
Strangely enough, I can even remember
going for it.
No, I was going to say, strangely enough, Susie, I can remember doing touch classes, which is a crazy idea nowadays. Yeah.
Okay, now we're really dating ourselves.
Hannah's efficient. Hannah's efficient down the 7.
Ooh.
Being a little more time here to 12B. I'd say almost she's about even at the moment with Luis. Good off the ground here. Now she just did 11. She just did 11, obviously looking to be efficient on her turn. She did a little bit more steps.
She doesn't like it.
There's 11 there.
A little,
right?
A little slower there, I think. Probably she wanted to do the leave outs, but just didn't feel like the horse was paying enough attention to her to be able to pull that off effectively. So she decided to add.
So leading time 43.1, 22 seconds. Hannah's time 43.79 is 7 seconds.
There's a little bit more of a scampier type of step, right? And not a big lopey step, so it's probably not that easy to leave strides out on this horse.
I would agree with that. I think it's, you know, she obviously feels and knows the horse that needs to be a little bit more boxed up in her inner aids to elevate and take the moment. I think she rode for the clear, and I think that was very important to her. She knows this puts her in a very good position at the moment, second, and that's good money.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be happy with that. You can see she had to struggle a little bit to fit that step in at the end, but
that was well ridden for what she felt she's sitting on. Right? I think she did a good job for what she felt she needed. It's as I always try to stress to my own students, make decisions, right? And once you've made your choice, you've got to finish the choice. There's no changing your mind. So, you know, Hannah, examples, making a very assertive choice and finishing the choice.
Yeah, I thought that was a beautiful ride. I think we were going to take a little bit of a break to hear from our sponsors now, as we are waiting for Louis to prepare his second mount for the jump off.
In the jump off, Luis Sabino aboard Argon de Belliard. This was on by Equiferandas 2.
The only rider with multiple rides to have 2 of the jump off.
Yeah, we could have a 1-2 finish with the gentleman with the 2 gray horses.
Well, that would be exciting, wouldn't it? I guess he'd be buying drinks for everyone tonight.
Yeah.
Certainly could happen, couldn't it?
It very well could. This horse looked very comfortable in the first round. I think this was the horse that looked to me almost like the way he went just looked so easy and experienced to me, watching him. And I think Luis just will probably just put in a very similar round that he just did. I think it's easy if he does, Hannah did 11 to that Oxer before the rollback. If Luis just rolls up there in that 9 and stays in general on a good rhythm, then he'll finish ahead, of course.
All right, well, here we go. We're about to find out, Ray. Look how easily he lopes that 7.
Beautiful hand and beautiful release there at that distance to watch his hands. You can see it so nicely with the black gloves on the gray neck. You really get a lovely example of good hand contact. There's the directness. You see him shift left on the way out.
And there's the 10. Not at any risk of having a jump down, really, right?
Yeah, with a calm rollback. 3, 4, 7, 8, and there's the 9. And that should take care of that, I think, for him. Yes, just ahead. 0.2 seconds just ahead. It's almost like he had a clock in his own mind running and knew right where he was.
Right, I think he does. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant. First and second, I mean, I think he's probably happy he's visiting California at this point. He's made an awful lot of money with these horses.
Well, with 2 horses that jump like this, who look very comfortable in this kind of environment, I think that's he's loaded up ready. And he's shown that today.
Yeah, he's a superhero. Let's admit it, Ray.
Well, that's it for everybody. We're all finished. I mean, it was a lovely class. I think it rode much better than we thought, and I hope we see more of this. And we'll come back. The awards ceremony will be coming up.
Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Best of luck to everybody out there in your own endeavors and sport. And be good to each other. And we'll see you around the horse shows.
Stay safe.
That's a really great competition. The $100,000. where you'll find a complete photo gallery of the various products offered. And also a $50 Smart Pack gift certificate. And have you heard of Smart Therapy? That is the newest product line from Smart Pack. Every sheet wrap and pad in the Smart Therapy line has been thoughtfully crafted to include cooling elements and ceramic fibers. And every piece is sure to provide a comfortable, ergonomic fit. This entire product line has been designed by riders to help your horse train better and recover faster. Learn more at smartpack.com/smarttherapy. Our champion also receiving a Shady Lady neck and face covering. Shady Lady sun protection products are made with a high-performance proprietary fabric that has been infused with a plant-based oil. We're going to bring in our top three for these presentations. The $100,000 Meter 50 Gold Tour Grand Prix, sponsored by Inn at the Mission San Juan Capistrano. Third place to Hannah Morton and Parkmore Lux. And joining us on behalf of Blenheim EquiSports, Robert Ridland, the president of Blenheim EquiSports. We also have Alex Zulia and Cheryl Wheaton. Well, first and second to Luis Sabino, all the way from Portugal. First aboard Camino Imperial at Gibbs Hill. Second aboard Argonda Beliar. And we'll move off, have the official photograph taken by McCool Photography. They are the official photographers of the 2021 Blenheim Spring Classic Series. Our champion receiving that wonderful Shady Lady neck and face covering with built-in UPF 50, blocks 90% of the UVA and UVB rays, nourishing plant oil infused yarn, soft, breathable, and lightweight, naturally antimicrobial, chemical-free, quick-drying, easy on-off snaps, and also made right here in California. And make sure you do check out Inn at the Mission San Juan Capistrano. Entrenched in the spirit of hospitality, you'll discover inviting surroundings that make it irresistible to relax. Quiet hacienda-style guest rooms with private patios, a sparkling pool, fitness center, Spanish-inspired dining, and views of the Santa Ana Mountains. That official photograph having been taken, just one more thing, and that is for Luis Sabino to lead our field in our victory ride. What a great rider right there from Portugal. First and second in the $100,000 Gold Tour Grand Prix. Luis Sabino, first aboard Camino Imperial at Gibbs Hill, second aboard Argonda Beliar. Third place, Hannah Morton and Parkmore Lux. Kyle King, Enzo in fourth. Fifth to Beth on Hill, Count Me In. Will Simpson, Choco P in sixth. Seventh, Kyle King and Edelon. Kyle's also in eighth aboard Magic Mike. Ninth, that is Michelle Parker, Easy Does It. 10th, Mitchell Endicott, Chacrabat. 11th, Chandler Meadows, Christy J. N.R. And 12th, Lisa Carlson, Livestream 2. But our champion, once again, Luis Sabino. Well, that's a 1-2 finish. What a great rider from Portugal. First aboard Camino Imperial Gibbs Hill, second aboard Argonda Beliar. And that concludes competition right here in the Derby Field, the final day of the 2021 Blenheim Spring Classic 2 tournament. Have a great 3 days off. We'll see you next Wednesday.
And now, Luis, congratulations. First and second place today.
Thank you, David. It was a big pleasure.
So, I mean, that was amazing. We're going to cut away to your jump-off round, but tell us, you know, that both Ray and Susie were watching your horses. You seemed to have such a great connection. You were so calm. You know, tell us, what were you thinking? Of course, you knew you were in first place when you went in for that final ride. You know, what was your strategy going in with the second horse?
Answering for the first part of your question about the complicity, when I came to US in beginning of January, unfortunately I could not bring my groom, but it was also a big chance to meet Mari that helped me during 3 months. She's always doing the maximum and perfect. And about the complicity, I also was more on the stables, helping the horses. In Europe, actually, I do. My main core is the business of horses, and I don't have, unfortunately, so much time to be at home riding every day and to be with them. But here I had the chance to be with them, and I think that we increase our complicity. About my strategy, normally Camino is not faster than Argan, and I thought if I'll do a clear round, I would put a little bit more pressure on them. And maybe after they go, they can get a fault. and after I can be relaxed with the second horse, and I think it works.
No, that was great. I mean, we can't say enough. You're an amazing professional. You know, two great rides today. You know, and both in the both in the first round and in the jump off. We congratulate you, and we look forward to seeing you at many more Blenheim EquiSports shows.
I hope it's my second time in USA. I was 2 years ago in the WEG in China, but now I spend much more time here, and I really enjoy. I feel in my body and my spirit feels good energy, and the people here are very kind and very nice. I feel like at home.
Well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Thank you. And that wraps up today's Grand Prix event. We hope you've enjoyed that. Make sure you go to theplacetojump.com to check out all of the videos. We'll be live streaming every class from every arena throughout the entire 2021 season. Have a great day.